Okay guys, a new project. I'm putting a new shock. This shock is an Epixon SR Suntour Epixon R in to replace this MX650 shock. Now, I have this completely broken down for other reasons I won't go into, but um, as part of that, I decided to go ahead and replace this shock. Now, this shock, I got it off eBay. If you research it, this may be a Chinese knockoff. I'm not sure. And I talked to the guy who sold it. He's not sure either. But we'll see if it works. It looks like it's pretty solid. So another YouTuber. I'll post a link of where you get this. So other YouTuber that that used that, and so I'm gonna do the replacement and then show you how to adjust it as well, and I'm going to give you a few measurements too if you want to replace it with a different shock. Okay, first I want to do some measurements in case you guys want to replace it with something else. Looking at the inside diameter of this, and it's about this is 7.9. I think this is actually about 8 millimeters. So I think it's 8 millimeters inside diameter. So let's, my calipers are a little offset on the inside diameter. So it's probably about 8. Let's check this. That says 7.78. Let's check this here. It's outside diameter. This is the bolt. Oh, this is 7.8. You can see that. 7.9, so that looks like it's a good fit. I mean, we can easily test that just by putting it inside, but wanted you guys to see those measurements in case you want to buy another shock. So it's 7.9 millimeters. Looks like it's 8 millimeter shock. Okay, the other measurement that's really important here is this outside diameter. So that's 24.12, or this 24.12 here. So that has to match when you're buying a shock. And that's 24. So let's see what this is. This one is 22 millimeter. So probably be a little bit of play, like 1 millimeter play on each side. I don't think that's an issue, but that's what if you're looking for another shock, that's what you're looking for. Now, one of the reasons I got this is I wanted to raise the height a little bit on this shock, on the overall stance of the bike. So this is, this actually was bigger than my calipers here, but this is about 197 millimeters. I'll switch that to inches. It's about 7.76. Which I think is about right. I think this is about 7.75 inches eye-to-eye shock, which I think is about right in terms of what you want to look for if you're gonna increase the shock. Now I'll show you the other. I want to show you the other. This one. See if I can get this here. This eye-to-eye for stock is, look at that, it's about 148 millimeters or 5.8. So we're increasing about 2 inches the length of the shock. You can kind of see that here. We're increasing it by about 2 inches. Now that's going to be because of the geometry of how the swing arm works. It's actually going to increase the overall height about 4 inches. So it's going to be significantly higher. It'll be significantly more travel as well. So you get probably another 4 inches of travel out of this, which would be great. But we'll test that. Okay. So the next thing is, I'm not able to, fully compress this at all. I mean, or compress it at all, just using my weight on it, which I'm not sure if that's normal or not. So, but this came loaded. It looks like with a little bit of pressure, and so I'm going to test that really quick, just using. It has about 20. Every time I check it, it lets out a little bit of air, which is, so it has about 20 psi. So 20 psi, I would expect that I could compress it, but I'm not able to. So, and then I want to check the overall travel of this as well. So I'm going to let out all the air on it, and then we'll check the overall travel on it. We'll install it, and then we'll pump it back up. Okay, I let out all the air in this. I set this to turn this all the way to fast. I would expect that I could compress it, at least somewhat. I can't do that, so I'm gonna go ahead and install it on the bike and see if I can compress it now with no air in it, and it's set to completely fast. If I can't, there's something wrong with the shock. Okay, now this is a real weak point, I feel like, in the overall design. There's a lot of pressure here on these shocks, and that's a pretty thin bolt. I'm going to go ahead and install these, but if these get loose at all, if they loosen up, then that's creating a shear point right there. You notice they put some blue Loctite in it from the factory, and when you screw it back in, you always want to put Loctite on it. That's a high vibration point. It'll loosen up, and then you have a real shear point, and then that snaps. I've had it snap several times on me, and so you always want to, when you're installing these, you want to put Loctite on it. Okay, I'm putting this in. I'm going to put this end down. Now you're supposed to be able to rotate this with your hand. It's in a position that it's okay with me. I'm just going to put it over here so it's accessible, so we can get air out. Okay, I'm going ahead and installing that. Now, one of the things that I'll say may be hard to see is this thing, when it goes through, it's supposed to go through all the way through to the other side, and you can see it where it's actually now if this it's holding steady. Now if it loosens up at all, it'll slip out, and then you're creating a shear point where this little tiny screw is holding all that pressure. So you don't want to have that to happen at all. So you really want to make sure that, one, when you're tightening it, this piece goes all the way in, and then second, you have Loctite on it so it can't loosen up at all. And then it might be strong enough. I think the instances where it's broken on me, it's when it's loosened up a little bit, and then this bolt here has sheared. Okay, now here we go. I'm going ahead and putting it in. Okay. A little bit of this Loctite gel. It actually might be a little different brand, but this is Loctite gel, which I like. Just a little dab, doesn't take much. This might be too much actually, and again, make sure that goes all the way in, and it tightens down completely on both sides. And tighten that up, and then we'll do the same thing for the bottom. Okay, it's good. Okay, I got this thing just not really fully installed, but just enough where we could test it. And you want to go ahead and compress it, Joshua? So, yeah, you can definitely compress it. That's actually pretty nice. That's pretty sweet. There was a little like a pop, like I'm breaking a seal or something when I first compressed it. So I think that's why I couldn't manually do it. It's like something has to be kind of. I think it was just kind of stuck from the factory. But yeah, it's working great now. So I'll go ahead and I'm gonna install it starting in a lower eyelet. Might do it. We might try it at the higher eyelet. We'll mess with that when we're adjusting it. I'll tighten everything up with Loctite. And I'll install the rest of the bike, and then I'll show you how to adjust things as well. Now, as I'm putting things together, I'm putting the case on. I'm noticing, if you look at that fitting, the air fitting would be into the case. I think I'll try to twist that. twist that that top around. It says you're supposed to be able to do that according to the documentation. Let's try to twist that around and see if I can get that where it's accessible without opening the case. Okay, I was able to twist this just like it says in the shock documentation, but you can see now it's gonna hit against this case. I think flipping the case, maybe making putting that nozzle on the top instead of the bottom when you install it. It may be better to sit on top and be accessible, but I kind of like it where it is, so I'm just going to cut out a notch here in this case and make it accessible just like that. Okay, I cut a notch in that case. It should be just fine there. Okay, I have the bike pretty much put back together. When you're setting sag and adjusting the shock, you want the full weight. So at least I have the heavy components installed, battery, motor, etc., and should be able to set sag at this point. Now the weight from the shock, SR Suntour recommends that you set sag based on the length of the travel of this the shock itself. So on my shock, it depends on the length of the shock, but on my shock it says should be about 50 to 55 millimeters of travel. And how you do that, you fully extend the shock, and then take a measurement. You wrap a zip tie around it, take a measurement of the overall length here, and then sit on it with your full weight, and then get off, and then take a measurement and see how far that's moved, and it should be about 50 to 55 millimeters. Now that they're saying that represents about 20 to 25% of travel. So that's 20 to 25% of travel for an air shock. Maybe that's different. Usually on dirt bikes with spring shocks, you want about a third of travel. So I'm going to do it old school way too, just to get these measurements, and I'll show you how to do that. But starting off, you need to put a mark on your bike here, and you measure from the axle to that, and get that measurement. And I'll put an X right here, so we're getting exact measurement every time. So I'll do it both ways. Okay, taking the first measurement from the center of this axle down here, it's hard to do with one hand, up to this mark that I've created right here, 50 millimeters. That's the first measurement. Now I have the air completely out of this shock, so I'm going to compress it all the way as well and get that measurement. I just want to see overall travel, but that's because I want to see how much travel I'm gaining through this. But that's not required to set it up. So right now I have no air in. I've also set this. I just put it's kind of hard to see there, but there's a zip tie that I put around there just loosely, so you can, when that slides down, you'll see how much travel I get out of that as well. So I measured the overall length here as well. This is just in here. It's really hard to show, but I measured the length of this, the shock, just this base part. But that measurement is about 55 millimeters as well. So I have a baseline to see how much the shock compresses. Okay, I've fully, just sitting on the shock, fully compressed it and took another measurement, and it's really hard to see, but I'm just showing you how I did that. And it's about 38 centimeters, and so that's going to be all I have to compress this shock is this floor pump for tires, but hopefully we can do it. It does go up to 260 pounds. The max pressure on this shock is 300 pounds, and I don't need that. So So we'll see. I'm gonna pump it up to 100 and then we'll test it. Okay, I checked it at 100 psi and just sat on it, and got, it looks, I mean, just the eyeball, and it's 50% of travel. We're looking at 20 to 25% of travel. I did measure it as well. It's 25 millimeters of travel, so just under half. So that's not enough pressure. We're targeting 20 to 25% of travel when you sit on it for the sag, and so that's, that'd be 10 to just a little over 10 millimeters of travel. Okay, I think I got a technique that works here. I pumped it up to 200 pounds of travel, or 200 psi, and sat on it. The thing didn't move at all, and so I know that's too much. And then I just been slowly like tapping this and letting out just a tiny bit of air at a time, and getting more and more travel. I think that's the best way to adjust it. Just pump it up to about 200 psi, and then just let out air and sit on it as you're doing that. And then right now I'm at about 6 millimeters of travel. I need to get that to about 10. So you can just sit here and let out a little air, and then sit on it. And you can see you get more and more, and do that until you're about a little over 10 millimeters of travel, and then that should be good. Okay, I finally got it set the way I think I want it. It's got about 15 or 16 millimeters of travel, which is more, but my son weighs about 155, I weigh about 185, so it'll probably travel less for him. So we'll start there and see how that feels. Okay, the last setting is to set the rebound speed, and I'm setting it. There's actually this red knob here to do that. It clicks. There's 10 total clicks. I'm just gonna turn it all the way to one side, and then turn it all the way to, and then set it to 5 clicks so it's right in the middle, and try that and see how it feels. This is more of a feel thing as you're writing. Okay, we got it tested and all set up and running great now. I did make the speed of the rebound a little faster, so it's so it rebounds a bit quicker. And I wanted to show you side by side with the regular Razor 2, and it's definitely 4 inches taller. So you can look at the difference. Sits a lot higher. Yeah, that's just a normal Razor. This is 2 feet at the back, and this is about 28 inches, 29 inches almost. It's 4 or 5 inches taller. Definitely a big improvement in how the back end feels.